work for an entertainment company. Everything we see and do seems to involve some form of entertainment. When we sit down with our clients, we can't sit down with white paper and black lines. We need to do creative stuff in our deliverables. We also need to do creative stuff in order to want them to come to the research. If we say, hey, we're going to that usual room, let's just look at every other room and we're going to recruit the same people, we recruit to talk about the same thing, nobody goes. If you say we're doing research speed dating, people come. Two places I started doing conflict groups when I worked at Sterling, two categories, People Magazine versus Us Magazine readers. My wife's a People Magazine reader. To her, that's journalism, and it's all been checked, and they don't pay for any interviews. She may be wrong on several counts. Us Magazine, to her as well, that's just salacious. The other group that we did was Ben & Jerry versus Haagen-Dazs. And you haven't lived till you do a conflict group in Portland between people who are Ben & Jerry fans versus Haagen-Dazs fans, because we served the ice cream, we made them taste the opposing person's flavors and stuff. It was really, really great conflict groups. The researchers who get into trouble are those who pound their finger in your chest and they say, no, the data says this, so this is what you need to do. That's not the way the relationship should work. Insight should be like produce. You know when you pick up a melon, it feels good and you put it in your cart? Then you pick up another one and you go, that's all right, I'll put it back. That's what we say at our presentations. This is like shopping for produce. We're going to tell you how to cover the World Cup. Here's what people had to say and here's what we suggest. If you like the insight, put it in your basket. If you don't like, put it back. We won't be offended. I think they identify creativity with us. So we went to do a baseball presentation the other day, and the opening slide was exactly what you thought it might be. The cliche picture of Derek Jeter, and then as soon as they started the presentation, they clicked, and you heard shattering glass, and it said, actually, we're not going to talk about Derek Jeter in baseball. This is how Sun Tzu would address the dilemma you're in, and the whole deck was then about Sun Tzu, and how he would look at the baseball property. And that's like a nice, flashy kind of surprise where it's kind of a metaphor for our department. People think they have basic expectation, and then it gets surpassed. One thing we do is we actually interrupt each other on purpose. So if my colleague Edwin, who's a great presenter, is presenting, I'll say, Edwin, can we just stop here for a minute? I just want to make sure I get it. And you and I have talked about this a lot, but are you saying X, Y, and Z? I actually have no interest in the answer to his question. I'm trying to set a dynamic in the room that if nobody's going to ask, I'm going to ask. I'm going to, a presentation is like a dress shoe. It's really stiff when you start. Somebody has to loosen it up. So we interrupt each other and question each other on purpose. They think of us as strategists. So we had a department head came to me and he said, my team's not getting invited to things. You guys seem to be at everything. I said, I think we've proven that beyond the research, we have an opinion. And, the head of programming said to me, I love that you have an opinion. I disagree with it more than half the time, but I love that you have one, because it helps us think about the issues we need to think about. And again, if you don't have an ego about it, that's fine. I think there's also a lot of good hand-to-handness that still has to happen. I could read this over the phone on the presentation that I did on a conference call. It doesn't have nearly the resonance in person. And it doesn't have people, then there's the discussions afterwards with people. So at first when I joined the company, my boss said, you go to Bristol a fair amount, is everything cool? And I said, yeah, I just have to walk into people's offices and say, what's the top thing on your desk right now? And then I leave. I just want to hear what's on their desk, and I want to talk about how research could help them. And in any given day, we come back with 5 or 6 projects. But I think that's really important. People always say, how do you think ESPN will fall apart? And I said, if we die, it's probably due to Outlook. We spend more trouble trying to meet with each other than any outside. He flippantly says about any other outside sources. It's a big company, and you have to navigate it personally. I don't think the biggest challenge is on television. So there's 2 new sports networks or 3 new sports networks. That's fine, but it's changing behavior. So I think that's the old war? The old war is, our pregame show is better than your pregame show. Quite honestly, it matters what game, not whose pregame show. ESPN has a huge portfolio of live assets. Like I said, we're watched 96% live. So we're in great shape on the programming side. I think for us, it's managing that transition to digital and doing not just good digital projects, but projects that surprise and delight people.